Now this is PodGazer.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the PodGazer Podcast. I'm joined by a guest today that I actually just found not that long ago on Instagram, Mr. Master Luke 1986. How are you today, sir?
Greetings, everyone.
Hey, good to have you on here. Good to have you on here. So I was watching Instagram and I saw this guy come across my feed. He does some amazing Star Wars voices and stuff that I was watching. And I was like, I gotta have this guy on. This is way too cool. So, couple of questions I like to ask to kind of get us into things here. Favorite Star Wars movie?
Probably growing up, it was probably Return of the Jedi. Although I really do like Revenge of the Sith also. But I watched a ton of Phantom Menace when it came out.
Yep. Yeah. So the Phantom Menace for me is actually the first movie I ever saw in theaters. I was 5 years old when it came out.
Okay.
So first movie Star Wars, first movie period ever in theaters. But I am an Empire guy. I love The Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
Obviously that a lot of people do, but so I'm not like a Lone Ranger there. But
well, see, when I was young, we had A New Hope. It was like on tape, like VHS off of broadcast.
okay.
And so it was like really grainy and sparkly and whatever. And and so we had that, and then we had Return of the Jedi actually purchased on VHS. But Empire, I think we did have on tape, but it was like when I was really young, and we must have seen it, and it just, being the darker thing, everybody's mad at each other and all that sort of stuff. It must have been when Han was going down in carbonite, and I just kind of ran out of the room. And so forever, I thought in my head canon that the rebels only partly blew up the Death Star and that they had to fix it in Return of the Jedi. And so is Darth Vader my father? It's like, okay, he is. And so that just sort of became, he just talks to him as father. And so I just sort of understood that, but I never got that reveal really until when they re-released him in the special editions in '97. And then that's actually when I really sat down and watched. It may have been a little before, but I actually like sat down and watched through it to actually see how that revelation goes. So I did my own machete order, which
that is funny. It's funny you mentioned it's funny you mentioned the Death Star thing, because I thought the same thing. I thought it was just like, oh, they only blew up like half the Death Star and now they're just fixing it. And then when I got older, I realized, holy crap, that's a whole second Death Star. Yep.
Yeah,
what were you going to say? Sorry.
You couldn't see what it was. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It was so funny. It's funny that you mentioned that. I love it. How about, are you do you watch a lot of like the Star Wars shows and stuff as well?
I've been keeping up on most of them.
Okay. What are some of your favorites?
Well, I mean, I really like Clone Wars. And I've kind of been going through that again. Maul Shadow Legend, I've really been enjoying that. It's the whole different art style. That makes it an interesting thing to catch, how the sabers look like flames and all the backgrounds look like they're not watercolored, but definitely paint brush stroke like that. Yeah. So that's really neat to see that. Let's see, what are the other? I mean, I've liked a lot of the other stuff. I enjoyed Obi-Wan. I like Ahsoka. I like Mando. I like Boba. I mean, the speeder bike chase did look a little slowed down, but I'm a lot more forgiving than perhaps others. I'm not much of a critic, really, because in my mind, I feel like the best critics and really the only valid critics are creators themselves. And so as consumers, I mean, yeah, there's a degree where we can say, I like this, I don't like this, and we can put our own opinion on it. But like value statements of this is good, this is not, I feel like you have to have qualifications in order to really be valid in what you say. So to that extent, I don't critique much, and I'm easily pleased anyway. So
yeah. No, that's fair. Yeah, I try to, like, on my channel and stuff, like, people know the movies that I do and do not like. And, like, hey, this is my opinion. Like, here's why I don't like these movies. If you like them, great. I actually had a discussion at work the other day with a customer that came in, so was wearing a Star Wars shirt, started talking, and he's asking about different shows, and he's like, "Did you like Andor?" And I'm like, "Honestly, I didn't. It wasn't my thing. Like, I could see how people love it, and if you do, that's great. I couldn't, for some reason, I just couldn't jive with it. But to each his own. Everyone's gonna like something that maybe somebody else doesn't, and that's okay.
Sure.
So this voice acting thing, I gotta ask. So, like I said, I saw you on Instagram. You were doing some C-3PO, Qui-Gon. The one that I really saw you doing was Palpatine. How long have you been doing, one, voices in general, and two, like the Star Wars voices?
Well, I think it was, I don't know how many years ago, 4 or 5, whatever years ago, where I did Luke. I just did all his lines because what you see on Instagram is really just borrowed from my YouTube, because YouTube is really where I did all those things, and so everything's just emigrating over that way. Immigrate, whichever. And so I did a Luke video of just doing all of the voices that I could remember off the top of my head, just trying to go through them. I missed some, but I got most of them. And so I did that because Luke was always my favorite character. And I always kind of saw myself as Luke Skywalker anyway, sort of in my field of influence, because I was the Star Wars guy. I liked it. I wasn't the only one, but I was one of the big ones, and I really liked Star Wars. So I always sort of saw myself, and there were some life experiences that happened that I felt sort of coordinated with that, like in the expanded universe, because we're still dealing. I became a teenager in 2000, so that's kind of where that whole timeline of what was going on there is happening. And so I did my Luke video, and then it was after I did some other voice stuff, like sometimes, like when I got sick and my voice dropped like way down here. I'm like Master Chief, and so I did like some deep voice impersonations. I did some Master Chiefs, like I need a weapon. It's not so bad now, but it's better when I'm sick. And did
That's pretty cool.
I did like a Sean Connery thing, because no, not Ray. Last Crusade is my favorite Indiana Jones, and so that's one that I grew up watching a lot. I did just a few other bits like that, but then the other Star Wars voices was Star Wars fan animations had commented on one of my videos, and of course I didn't see a notification, and so I never knew until like months after, and I was like, "Oh, dude, sorry, I didn't see this." Because he's been working on Shadows of the Empire, and so I asked, "Do you still need help with that?" And he sent over a list of characters that he's needing voices for, and he liked my 3PO, and so he's still kind of working on that as far as I know. And now the big one that I really enjoyed doing was Darth Angeles. He did Heir to the Empire in CG, and his one guy, Matt Finish, I think his name is. He's doing like just most of the main character voices, like Han, Lando, and Luke, and possibly even 3PO. I don't remember, but he had said Matt wanted to pull back, or he didn't have time to do all of the stuff, and he had seen my Luke video, and so he asked if I would do Luke, and so I started doing that at chapter 21 with him.
That's cool.
Heir of the Empire, and he's sent me stuff for Dark Force Rising, and once I don't know if you can tell just by listening to me, but my allergies are really killing me last week, and so I had a lot of that nasal drip, and so I was Master Chief again just last week. I couldn't sing in church last week. I was just doing the piano and letting someone else sing. But I'm feeling better. So once I get really cleared out, then I'll start chipping away at the Luke lines that he's given me for Dark Force Rising. And so that's we're starting to gear up into that.
That's so cool. Yeah, I love voice work. So a lot of the books that I read are actually on Audible. And so for me, like the Heir of the Empire series, all of that, the whole Timothy Zahn series, I just finished up Mark Thompson reading it. And that dude, Mark Thompson, is so good at those voices. And so I get so enthralled with the way you guys are able to do these voices. If not, no big deal. Are you able to do any of those voices like on command, or does it take you a while to kind of warm up and kind of get into it?
I can, if I have something to say, then I can spontaneous my way into it. That's an odd use of verb, but yeah.
Okay. I'm trying to think of something you could say. Let's start off with your Palpatine, because that's who I heard first. Let me.
You ever hear the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? No.
There you go.
It's no story the Jedi would tell you. It's a Sith legend. Darth Plagueis was a dark lord of the Sith, so powerful and so wise, he could even influence the midichlorians to create. He had such a knowledge of the dark side, he could even keep the ones he cared about from dying. He could actually save people from death. Dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. I better stop before some copyright thing hits me.
I love it. That's so good. That's really, really good. You mentioned C-3PO. You're doing some C-3PO for this other thing. Trying to think. One of the lines that I saw you doing was in Phantom Menace. Oh my goodness, I've had a mind blank there. So I don't know if you remember those lines or not. I'll let you go. I'll let you do your thing.
Let's see. Oh, hello. I am C-3PO, human cyborg relations. And you have to do like the arm bait. It's not like,
yeah.
How might I serve you? Oh, perfect. I'm not sure this floor is entirely stable. Oh, hello. I don't need to be introduced. R2-D2. Pleasure to meet you. I am C-3PO, human cyborg relations. I beg your pardon, but what do you mean, naked? My parts are showing. Oh, goodness. Oh.
I love it. I love it. You know, it's funny. I did a couple of interviews with Roger Christian. And he talks about he was the second director of Phantom Menace. And that was one of the scenes that George gave him to do. And that line from Anthony Daniels in there, my parts are showing, actually was an idea from Carrie Fisher.
Okay, that sounds like something that Carrie Fisher might say.
Right? 100%.
That makes sense now.
It was a lot of fun when I learned that. I was like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, I mean, it doesn't surprise me that Carrie Fisher would do that, but it's just such a cool little nugget.
It totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. And then for 3PO, the only thing that you have to do with it is like set a delay on it for like 0.01 seconds, and then that droids the sound like instantly. And so that's all you have to do with that. So it comes out. I mean, I like to think that it's it does the job, but that's all you have to do with it.
I love it. I love it. What are some of your favorites to do that you just kind of like? Oh, I mean, you have all of them always on, but like, what are some of the ones that you love to bring up the most that you were like the most confident in? I would say.
I probably have to say Luke is the closest just naturally to where I am. And so that's the one that I'm probably the most comfortable with. But I mean, I have to say Palpatine is a pretty easy one for me to get into, I would say. 3PO, once I'm in, I mean, it doesn't take long for me to get into it, but you have to do the body of it. You have to have because I think of what Anthony Daniels said, way back on the DVDs, right? Because we used to watch I used to watch the DVDs, and so I knew like all the behind the stuff. Well, whatever was on the disc, and he said, 3PO being a British butler, a butler because that was his role in life, and nervous because that was his feeling in life, and so to C-3PO human cyborg relations. And so I always have to have the nerves, the jiggle that comes with it, because that helps with,
Yeah.
because you have to have a bit of vibrato with it. That's the nervousness of it. And then
Yeah.
it's high pitched and sort of the British, so you put those things together and it creates, a facsimile of 3PO.
Yeah. That's so cool. Yeah, I got to interview a while back Mark Thompson, as we were talking about a little bit ago. And that's one of the things that he mentioned. That's cool that you're mentioning it, is like, he's like, it's not just about being able to replicate a voice. It's about getting into the character. Like, it's actually acting. That's why it's called voice acting, because you're doing what the character is doing while you're reading these lines, So it's really cool that you say that you got to get into the C-3PO,
There's a technique behind it. So I mean, because I play piano, and so there's technique that you have to have with that, and you can't just hit the right note at the right time. There's the other things. You have dynamics, you have articulation, you have just overall general technique of what you're doing, to not just make it sound okay, but to actually make it beautiful. There's all these other things you have to do. Otherwise, it's just mechanical and just kind of dead sounding. If you don't have the dynamics, there's no life to it. There's nothing that excites you. And if you don't have the articulation, then there's no definition. There's no sparkle. It's just kind of all fuzzy and just blah. So that's part of that technique of trying to get yourself into the mind of that character to make it work. It's not just talk, and it's not just in your head. It's really in your whole body, because every good singer knows, I'm not a good singer, but every good singer knows that it's not just your voice that's doing it, it's your whole body that has to perform.
Sure. Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I love that. That's one of the things that, like, okay, I don't have the talents that you guys have, for sure, but like, there's a few voices and stuff, just snippets that I like to do for the kids and stuff every once in a while. And like, there is something to be said about, like, when a character is supposed to pause, like, you can just do the voice and be done. But like, if a character has a certain way they talk, or like a certain pause, if you want to imitate that well, you got to have, like you said, those dynamics, right? I'm a guitar player. I started with piano, guitar player. I sing, I play bass for church and stuff. Like, I get that. I understand that there has to be a sense of dynamics, when to get loud, when to stay quiet, when to pause, just a smidge for that effect, So I totally understand that. Right. Exactly. 100%. So talking to your piano player, obviously then you must love, obviously, John Williams, Star Wars music, right? Like, Star Wars wouldn't be without him. Do you have any like favorite tracks of his that you listen to? Because for me, with Empire, like, I love all of his stuff that he does. I'm going to be honest, like, John Williams is just a mastermind of this stuff. But like, listening, there's a couple songs from Empire Strikes Back, The Asteroid Field, Hyperspace, and a couple others that are so good. Like, they just bring me back to my childhood. Are there any songs like that for you that are like, oh man, this one just hits home for me?
I've always loved Yoda's theme.
Such a good one. Yes.
Always been my good, especially when you get like right towards the very end where the flute takes the melody and just the strings and the harp kind of doing that bit. That's just, that's just gorgeous on there. Just the tenderness and the wisdom that is written into that piece.
Yes.
It just scores this. I mean, and John wrote that, of course, with him being the wise old creature at the side of the road, the magic creature, as George describes him, which is why you have, going from the C to the D with the lifted, the F sharp in there, using that different mode. That's not just plain major, but whatever that mode is called, I forget, but it has the raised fourth on that, and that gives this, of course, everything that John does for that is very otherworldly. And so there's all this crazy stuff that he's doing tonally and stuff like that, and with the harmonies. But just the simple aged wisdom with the little magical touch that's in there, that's gorgeous. So that's always been one of my favorites. And then Duel of the Fates, that leaves an impression, of course.
It does. Yeah.
Although the funny thing on that is that I had PodRacer for Game Boy Color, and when it does like a little, actually it was the same intro as what you had, the little pod racing thing, and it has it like in black and white, and it's like a 5-second clip or whatever, and then Duel of the Fates starts to come in, but the beat of it is so weird because like it, like the second note, bum ba da da da, that bum ba, it hits harder, and then it was
Okay.
messing with my time because I was hearing a beat off as being the downbeat, and then when it finally gets in da 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 like that, it always messed me up because that was
Yeah.
like the year after, before we even had it on tape. And so I was
Yeah.
playing that, and so that's all the memory of I had is messing with me. But that's a side note.
That's another piece that, like, I mean, he talks about it too, which I obviously, you've seen the behind the scenes stuff, though, which I love. Like, he wanted this like almost religious, ritualistic, like, you know, you get the choir, da, da, you know,
Yeah.
da, da, da. Like, it's so cool. Like, I love. It's just, I don't know. There's just not music like it.
Did you see the one with Dave and they're all around the table and they're talking about why Duel of the Fates is so important? Is because at that moment, that's the focal point that determines Anakin's future.
Yeah.
Because of all the what ifs, you know, everybody loves Qui-Gon. Everybody knows that if Qui-Gon was not killed, everything would have been different.
Yes.
And so it's at that moment when the die is cast and he's not there to tweak it anymore, and his fate is sealed. And that's what makes that such an important thing. And so that's what makes it so consequential. And then when you hear it again in Attack of the Clones, when he's going off to try to find his mother, you know that's. I mean, when you hear it in theaters, at first I thought, well, that's kind of an odd place to put it. I mean, sure, he's on the speeder, it's fast, but I wouldn't have thought that this would have been the tune for it. But what I didn't realize, of course, you don't know at that time that his mom's going to die, and so when that happens again, it's kind of cementing his dark path that's coming up. And then when you hear Yoda and Sidious, when it's them fighting in there again, it's that final nail in the coffin. You know, the Sith have played their move; they played it smart, and however noble a fight the Jedi could put up, it's going to be a losing battle. And so, and it's just that your fate is sealed. So that definitely leaves an impression.
100%. That is so cool. Yeah. When you start thinking about the way they intricately wove these songs and different things, and like you'll get like other songs where you'll get a piece of a certain song and you're like, I know that, you know, like I've heard that in another spot, you know. It's so well done. I have a question. In the Phantom Menace, because we were talking about this, in the Phantom Menace, when they're all stuck by the red walls there and Qui-Gon's kneeling in front of Darth Maul, do you think that Qui-Gon in that moment saw a vision of the future and saw the different paths and realized he had to die? Do you know what I mean? Like,
or like he was going to, I don't know. I'm pretty sure there's an answer to this somewhere, but I don't know. I mean,
because I think he did. I think he was so in tune that I think he did. He had some sort of vision.
But even, I mean, it's almost like a Doctor Strange sort of moment. Like you see all possible futures, and yet you go forward. You know, whether or not it's going to be that one, and you know, he continued to fight because it was he had to. It was the thing to do, and he knew it was the right thing to do to fight, even if he knew he wasn't going to make it. Right. And it's weird because I don't know. It's almost like it's like Minority Report, you know. And Tom Cruise is like, I am going to kill this man. You know, he sees this. He sees this, but of course, the vision, you know, always in motion is the future, and even what you see, there's details that's hidden in there that you know you have to really scrub through it to really find what's going on. And first impressions are very important, especially if it's a crime of passion. But you know, he's decided he's going to move forward in this path because even though he knows that it's going to cost him something, he says, "This is what I'm going to do." You know, and even if you were to like go back in time and like try to you know say, "I wish I could have done this differently. I wish I could have done that differently." when assuming that you can't have future knowledge, if you go back and watch, it's like Ebenezer Scrooge watching the shadows of his past. He's going to make the same decisions that he made back then because of what he thought, what he felt, what he wanted, what he feared, and what he came up against. And so you're going to, again, make that same path, and there is no breaking of that, as far as we're concerned. But, of course, there's no time travel, as I'm sure, because some evil genius would have already taken it and done something with it. Given enough time in the future, something would have been changed. So I don't think God's going to let us get away with that one.
Nope. Before I move on, I have another question for you. But before I do, you said one of your favorites is Yoda's theme. Do you like the Across the Stars?
Across the Stars is gorgeous, and it reminded me of, well, after the fact, I found a correlation. Brahms, he did, I forget how many symphonies. There wasn't too many. But in his third symphony, a third movement, when I was in college, my piano professor had this duet of, it's a piano rendition duet of Brahms Symphony Number 3, Part 3, or Movement 3. And it's just this gorgeous tune that's in C minor. And it has kind of like this A, and it has like a B and a C section that kind of goes on. And kind of after thinking about it, I can see that there's a lot of correlation between that piece and Attack of the Clones, because it kind of starts up kind of slow with the strings and stuff like that. And there's this tune, and the tune comes back. The whole piece is probably 5 or 6 minutes or whatever. And there's kind of these other parts that they don't necessarily have like the danger aspect or the dark brooding that Across the Stars has. But in its own classical way, I can see that there could have possibly been inspiration in that sort of way. And it gets really nice and big with the high strings, and the horn is playing the melody. It's a gorgeous tune. You definitely need to go look at that. So it's Brahms Symphony Number 3, Movement 3. I think Poco Allegretto might be the title of it. I don't remember that. But it's a gorgeous, gorgeous tune.
That's cool. I recently, it was the second time I've gone, but the first time for my kids, I took them to see Star Wars in concert. Such a cool experience. They're doing Empire next year. But it is so cool to see the symphony orchestra performing the music while you're watching this. Like, it takes a lot, especially if you're doing an entire movie. Like, it's one thing when you're in studio, I feel like, where you get to do, you work really hard at one song, you do that song, you probably get a break, you can come back, whatever is the next day, but when you're trying to do the entire thing in one shot, like, man, that's got to be wild.
That's a gauntlet right there.
Right? Have you ever experienced any Star Wars in concert?
I have, yes. It was actually, I think twice. Once was a New Year's thing that I got surprised with. So it was like New Year's Eve, and there was that. That's cool. And then there was another one that I went with family also. And I may or may not have dressed up as Luke and brought my saber.
Yes. Hey, I got a bunch of sabers back here. So I'm working on, you can't tell, I got a hat on, but I'm actually working on an Obi-Wan Kenobi Episode 2 cosplay. Obi-Wan's my favorite Jedi by far. So been working on him and super excited about it. I got his Episode 1 and 2 lightsaber over there. And
his Episode 1 was one of my favorite toy ones. I think it was maybe when Kenner was still doing the sabers. I had a bunch of the different plastic sabers because me and my friends would do that, and they broke. But I think I had the Obi-Wan where it's like the clear dark blue plastic blade, and I had it hot glued at like the second from the end tip because they were collapsible, So I had that one. It was hot glued and it was clear wrapped, so it kind of bulged a bit, like it had gotten like a bee sting and was like swollen, and I just stayed long that way. That one and Qui-Gon's. So those are my two favorite prequel sabers. And
I'm with you.
It is not in my budget to get any more than what I already have. It was a wonder that I was even able to get. I have a Vader's Vault Luke's Return of the Jedi, the hero.
Ooh.
They did a limited run on it. That was my first saber that I ever got. And
Wow.
and I'd asked them, I was really hoping to get it, but it looks like they're sold out. Do you happen to have any more? And she said, we have a couple that we keep on reserves just in case. And so that was the one I got.
That's so cool.
And then I got some Ultra Sabers ones. I got the Graflex by Ultra Sabers. And I chose that one because, the Graflex has changed over time. And I thought, I don't want to get like this specific one or that specific. I just want one that represents them all.
Sure.
And so I did that. And it looked to be about the right size because I saw some of the other Ultra Sabers. They look a little bit oversized. Just from pictures, I don't really know. But that's what it looked like. And there was a deal that I got those and a couple initiates, and then I got like a bonus initiate. So I have I have those 5 sabers is all I have.
That's cool. Yeah, this one, I'm with you on the prequels. Like, I love just the feel of this thing. Like,
that one's a gorgeous one.
Like, it just, I love it. It is so, like, I don't know. Like, yeah. I'm with you. It's such a pretty lightsaber. And then I've got so my sabers I buy from Theory Sabers. And I've got
the Anakin would pick me to be one of his influencers. It's like, please pick me. No.
Hey, you know what? Like, it's funny. So, like, he follows me on Instagram. We've had some pretty good like interactions in person and stuff. And I'm pretty good friends with a couple of the guys that work for him. So, you never know what happens. I got Anakin Episode 3, the SE version, so it doesn't have the control box on it. Right. Which is really cool. I have Obi-Wan Episode 3, like the actual like replica, like because I was like, Obi-Wan's my guy, Yeah. And then I have the Luke Return of the Jedi SE version. So
I have over here. I'm not entirely sure why it's here in this room, but I actually have Master Replica Anakin Attack of the Clones. This is 2002, buddy.
That's so cool.
So, and the reason I still have it in its box is because when we got it, and oh my goodness, this must have been like $100 at the time. And this is like 2002, 2002. And, or maybe it was 2003, but it was $100. I asked Mom and Dad if I could have this, and it's still in here.
I was gonna say, let's see this thing if you're down.
I'll just show it to you there. But there it is. It's in its plastic wrap.
Oh, that's so beautiful.
And it takes 6 AA's to make it work. And that was a big thing because Master Replicas, that was the thing,
Yeah.
And so they have that, and I was a little too rough with it one night out at night under the stars, and I swung it too hard, and the blade came kind of like that, and then it stopped working. And I felt so ashamed that I put it back in the box and I hid it under my bed. And I never told Mom or Dad about it because I was just that ashamed that I broke it after they spent $100 on me to do that. So I never played with it again for years. And then afterward, after Mom and Dad were cleaning out my room or whatever, and I said, oh, we saw it and we tried it out and it wasn't working. So I took a look at it, and one of the wires was snipped. And so, because my dad, he's good with electronics. He used to work at a place that dealt with like microchips and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so he's been good. And so he put it back together, and there it was. And
that's cool.
I may or may not have, again, afterward, been a little on the, you hit it and it's like, blah, 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 blah. The blade on that is really wobbly. So I've just chosen to just leave it in its box. Someday, I don't know, if I get something, I might stick it on there, but I don't know.
Yeah. It's amazing how far these things have come, like the Theory Sabers I have, like those things, like they're great for show. And then you can sit there and you can just bam, 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 duel someone with it, and it's fine. It's crazy how far they've come.
How long does a full charge last you?
I've never actually like tested it. Like I've had it like for a full day at a convention before as cosplaying, and it's been completely fine the entire day. And then usually at night, I charge it when I'm sleeping, so that way I make sure the next day I got full battery again. So I've never really like tried to like try it where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna let this thing die,
Yeah, because it has gone a long way. Because I remember, did you ever watch Sidious Sabers? He used to have a YouTube channel.
Mm-hmm.
He was a British sounding guy, and he would just show his sabers. He would just talk about it. He would give you the length. He would talk about what he liked about it. He would turn it on, and you could see it and hear it. And sometimes he would go out to his pool house, and he would just show things, and you just see his silhouette and his like really long, like shoulder length hair. He'd just be out in his pool house doing that, and that's all that his channel was. And he just disappeared off the face of the planet. I don't know what happened to him. But why am I saying this? There's a reason. And because at the time NeoPixel was a really new thing. Like when I got my Vader Hero, and so I was like, that was a new thing. And I was like, I don't know. It feels like it's gonna break. And then it's like, but it's gonna be like 3 times more brighter than my other one. So I was like, well, I don't know. I might never go that way, it looks like it's really, it's matured. As technology does, it matures, and so it'd be neat to have, cool. But it's definitely not in my budget. So
yeah, me neither. That's the thing is I love these things. My next one that I want to get, I have 2. So I have it's a Black Series, but it's Return of the Jedi Vader helmet back here.
Okay.
And so I would love to get Episode 6 Return of the Jedi Vader saber to display next to it. I think that would be such a cool one. And then Qui-Gon, like we were talking about earlier, the simplicity of Qui-Gon's, like it's so elegant and so beautiful. Like I love it. I mean, it's a civilized weapon for a more civilized age, right? Like, I love that aspect of it. Who would you say? I mean, maybe it's Luke, but who would you say if you got to choose one lightsaber hilt, who would be your favorite?
It's probably Luke, his Return of the Jedi. But Obi-Wan's his the one that you had, that's definitely a favorite of mine too.
Okay. Heck yeah. Let's speaking of Luke, can you do any Luke for us?
Greetings, Exalted One. Allow me to introduce myself. I'm Luke Skywalker, Jedi Knight and friend of Captain Solo. I know that you are powerful, mighty Jabba, and that your anger with Solo must be equally powerful. I seek an audience with your greatness to bargain for Solo's life. With your wisdom, I'm sure we can work out an arrangement which will be mutually beneficial and enable us to avoid any unpleasant confrontation. As a token of my goodwill, I present to you a gift, these 2 droids. What did you say? Both are hardworking and will serve you well. This can't be. R2, you're playing the wrong message.
I love it. That's great. And that's kind of the one that kickstarted stuff off for you, right? The Luke.
Yeah.
I love that. So I'm going to take it outside of Star Wars a little bit. Do you do any voices outside of Star Wars?
I've helped some people with Master Chief before. Okay. I think like Homebound Heroes, I think is one. He does stop motion animation with like his action figures all around his house and stuff.
Okay.
And so it's just like a couple little lines for Master Chief. Hello There animation did one of it was Master Chief was in that episode, and like I think Thomas the Tank Engine was like the villain or something. I don't remember. Or Baby Yoda was the villain, and one of the lines was, "It's Baby Yoda's army," or something like that.
That's awesome.
So there's just a few lines that I helped him with that. As far as helping other people with projects, it would either be Chief or Luke. I've helped other people with their Luke stuff, whether it was a stop motion thing or there was one guy. Well, I mean, it's another Star Wars. Everest Productions. He's been working on
Okay.
Plagueis stuff, and
Yeah.
he asked me to do what was it? Was it Palpatine or Dooku? He asked me to do some Dooku for him. For
Okay.
that, I mean, that's another Star Wars thing.
That's
Um,
okay.
I'm trying to think. Oh yeah. I'm trying to think of what the game is called. There's a guy who was making a fanfic about some game. I can't even think. It's like 4 letters in their capital, but I can't remember what it is. And the character's name is Trasky.
Okay.
Um, and it's something about oh goodness, what was it about? And the scene is like about him, like it's almost like you die to become like your brain, like kind of artificial, like into like a network sort of thing, almost like a
Okay.
Johnny Depp, whatever movie that he did. It was like that.
Yeah.
And it's something like that, and it didn't work for him, and so he has to live. He's condemned to live out his days and die that way instead of doing that. And so that was kind of the scene that I did with him. And but otherwise, he kind of acts in the game as kind of like a almost like a dispatcher, like kind
Okay.
of like people they call into him and he calms whatever their situation is. Um, so it's yeah, something
Okay.
like that. Strasky was the character. That was a fairly recent project. So I think that's hopefully coming out here in not too long.
Okay. How about in your own time? Are there any other voices that just for fun you like to play around with and or have been working on?
I do like a good Sean Connery, and so
Okay.
and so I've done that. Um, like you're going the wrong way. We have to get to Berlin. Brody's this way. My diary's in Berlin. We don't need the diary, Dad. Marcus has the map. There is more in the diary than just the map. All right, Dad. Tell me. Well, he who finds the Grail must face the final challenge. What final challenge? 3 devices of such lethal cunning. Booby traps? Oh, yes. But I found the clues that will safely take us through. And the Chronicles of St. Anselm. Oh, what are they? Can't you remember? I wrote it down in my diary so that I wouldn't have to remember.
I
That's one of my
love it.
favorite. That's one
I
of my
love
favorite
it.
names, so that I don't have to remember.
Yes, I love that. I wrote it down so I don't have to remember. I love that. What is
Because
I'm trying to remember Sean Connery's line where it's like the birds are my
oh yeah, I suddenly remembered my Charlemagne, like my armies be the rocks and the trees and the birds in the sky.
yes, I love that. I love that. You said you're also working on Count Dooku, right?
I've done Count Dooku for a few different people, yeah.
Okay.
Um, so, and as I'm coming through, as I'm coming through on my Instagram, cycling through all the different characters, I ended up going 4, 5, 6, and then 1, 2, 3.
Okay.
Well, I just finished 1, and so I'm now in 2. So I'm piecing parts in there. I just got to where Luke and or Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Padme reunite, and so I just did that from the different bits.
Okay.
Um, I've done Dooku before on a different video, but I may or may not re-record those. I don't know, just because I don't remember if I actually did it with like my microphone that I have. So I don't know.
Okay.
I might have to look forward in that and see if I want to redo that. Um, oh, a fun thing I did for Christmas was I did the Muppet Christmas Carol. Like I and
Yeah.
can I quote Muppet Christmas Carol all the way through? And I think I mostly got it. I just had to leave out all the songs, which I actually don't know all the songs to all the lyrics. Wait, all the lyrics to all the songs. Yeah, that way. But that was a fun one.
That's
Michael
awesome.
Caine he's a different sort of British chap, and it's a little bit it's sort of like the Sean Connery, but with a different placement of where you put the little bit of the lisp, although it's not very strong, but it's got to be there. But again, it's the cadence more than anything, and so you have to have the pitch correct, right, and then you have to have the diction right, the way that he says things, and then you have to have the cadence of things, where he puts where he puts his stresses on certain syllables and the way that he pieces his words together, right? And so when you put all these different things, that's
cool.
how you sort of try to put the voice together.
Yeah, I love it.
Everybody loves to do Kermit the Frog. I mean, who doesn't love to do Kermit the Frog? He's just
Kermit
so
the
great.
Frog here.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. I just gotta say this. My two favorite characters from Muppets were the two old men. I love them so much. They crack me up. One of my favorite lines I remember as a kid watching it is Miss Piggy gets really mad at Kermit and leaves, and the one guy looks over, he's like, "Hey, is breakfast over?" And he's like, "I don't know why." He's like, "Because I think the bacon just ran out." Yeah, I love that. It's so funny.
That's funny. Great Muppet Caper was my one to grow up watching. That was my favorite.
I love it. I've been watching it with my kids a little bit here and there. They have it on Disney Plus, and so we've been going back and watching the Muppet Show, and they love it. You also do a little bit of Yoda, I saw. What for you goes into that voice? Because talking about like certain cadence and diction and the way things are put together, there is like fear is the path to the dark side. There's like certain things, but to keep that going is hard, so like talk about your process in doing the Yoda.
Yeah, with kind of growly voices like that, I mean, there's probably a right way to do it with something. I mean, like Louis Armstrong, I can't do a Louis Armstrong. If I try, it hurts. I don't even know how, and if I try, it hurts. So I just kind of, okay, whatever. But with Yoda, I don't encounter that with that problem there. It's words I need to say. My ally is the Force, and a powerful ally it is. I mean, the growl isn't so much down there, but it's a little more forward.
Yeah.
A little bit more in the jaw. And stick your jaw out a little, you need to do. And so, yeah, the growl, it's not ripping me down in here. It's just kind of grizzling a little bit more forward. And so I have never had issues like with pain or endurance of trying to do that. Yeah. So, and then of course you have different shades of Yoda, right? You have the Frank Oz Yoda, and then you have the Tom Kane Yoda. And the Tom Kane Yoda, maybe a little bit more animated it is, maybe a little quicker, so because you're doing it for a show, and a little bit more lively, there's a little bit more action, and there's just a little bit more up and down on that. I don't know if he was trying to be like specific, or because I know that Dave told James Arnold Taylor not to be specific, but to do like your Obi-Wan. And so then he has his Obi-Wan, which of course he's perfectly capable of doing Ewan McGregor, but he has his Obi-Wan. And so I'm kind of guessing it was the same idea for Tom Kane, that he has his Yoda, and then Frank has his own Yoda that he does as well, which he will never do on command because it's like one of his children, and he will never exhibit his children in public. Which is fine, but yeah,
that's cool.
I don't know if that answered the question or not, but
no, it did. Yeah. So, because some voices are harder for others than it is for other people, if that makes sense. It just
totally,
kind of
like, I don't know how to do a Fozzie Bear. I can't do Fozzie. There's like a certain butterscotch of his voice that I just don't know if I really can access, and it's just you need, I don't know. Because my voice, it has a lot of you could almost say a nasal sound, but it's very reedy. It has a very bright brilliance to it. But some people, their voices have kind of a round thickness to it.
Right.
And some of them have, I don't know if it comes with age necessarily, but there's more of a seasoned mellowness that comes to it. And to really get into some of those other voices, you really got to do some sort of gymnastics in here in order to make that work.
Yeah.
Like to do to do a Vader, for instance. The, the Emperor has been again. I'm a little. It's rough because I've been sick. The Emperor has been expecting you. So like if I ever read the Bible, it's always like God is always James Earl Jones in my mind. That kind of things out there. Because it's the voice that sounds like thunder.
Sure.
So you have accepted the truth. That name no longer has any meaning for me. Yeah, it's still a little rough. I don't have my full voice yet, so that's a little on the rough side.
It's all good. It's all good. Something I do want to talk about that you brought up, because it's important to me in my life as well, is my faith. And like I like to incorporate it into my love of Star Wars, because there's a lot of truths and different things that kind of coincide in both. This aspect of redemption, right? I think is the biggest one that probably weaves itself through Star Wars. So talk about your faith a little bit, growing up with your faith, like all of it. I love hearing people's faith journey.
I was blessed that my parents brought me to church. I grew up in nursery. And so there was never a time that I don't think I didn't know about God. And that's a blessing that I thank him for. And so I grew up in church, and so I always knew about God. I have this memory in mind of like when I was 6 years old. It was a Saturday morning, and I was, in front of my mom and dad's house. We grew out in the country, and I have distinct memory of, going in front of mom and dad's house and just deciding that I was going to pray and, accept Jesus in my life, because I've been hearing that, in Sunday school and nursery and stuff like that. And that memory sticks out to me. And I went to a Christian school. My mom and dad put me into a Christian school. And so I've been blessed to have a lot of that sort of theological training as far as being in church and being in a Christian school. And I always felt most fulfilled when I was able to help people, like whether it's talking about theology or like listening to what's troubling them and trying to find a sort of biblical or an understanding aspect to that I could relate to them to help them understand, the truths of the scripture and how that applies in their life. And so that's always been something that has always pleased me that I've been able to do. I've always been a team player. I always want to help people out in, whatever way I can. And then of course, being in music, I started doing music for church, whether it was playing for the junior church, playing piano for that, or I learned bass guitar when they needed that for a praise band for another church that I went to when I was a teenager. And probably my favorite Christian song probably is a choir song. It's called "He's Been Faithful." I think the composer was Carol Cimbala. I don't remember. I know the Brooklyn Tabernacle did it at one point. It was one that they performed. But that was one of my favorite ones because the lyrics are always talking about no matter how faithless I am to God, He is still faithful to me. When there are times in your life that you can't pray, when you know that there is sin that's interrupting your fellowship with God, not your relationship with God, but your fellowship with Him.
Right.
And even then, He still shows His love. He's still faithful. He still pours out, all the blessings that we can't count. The ones that even if we tried to sit down and really think and calculate it, it's impossible to do that. And so just the goodness of God. That's another good tune, Goodness of God.
Yes.
That's a good one that, I've come to recently. Actually, I think I had to learn it for a wedding, actually, and that was one of the ones. And so I learned it for that, and it's just a great tune. But yeah, God has always been faithful to me. He's been very kind to me. I have had an easy life, really. I really have. And I'm sorry if that rubs some of your listeners the wrong way, that they haven't. And I can't speak to that other than to say that God has done and does do everything that's in His power, short of putting strings on you to say, I love you, and I know everything about you. I know what is best for you. Come to the light, come to me. My arms are open wide for you. I am ready to show you what abundant living really means, even if, and usually, especially when it has little to no semblance of what you think a good life is.
Yeah.
Because we
100%.
have to remember that him being the creator, he's on the top down, he's in charge, he's the creator, he knows all these things. We're just this little thing that really
Yeah.
has no deserving of having any relationship with him, and yet he does, because we see that through Jesus and everything that he did. He lived as fully man to suffer and live as men do, and still be fully God, so that way he can pay for the sins that separate us,
Yep.
and then conquer death, and then bring us into those promises. My favorite verse is, I think it's Romans 5, verse 2, and the New Living renders it, because of our faith, God has brought us into this place of undeserved privilege where we now stand. And we look forward to joyfully look forward to his coming and participating in eternity to come. I paraphrase that a little bit at the end.
Yeah.
But that undeserved favor is really what strikes me from that, because again, it comes back to that he's been faithful, regardless of how faithless we are. And that's the thing that, that about Christianity. We're not Christians because we're good. We're Christians because we know we're bad and we need someone to make us good. And that's part of the whole point.
Yep.
And you can even think, when Vader says, "It's too late for me, son," you're never too far gone for grace. And
100%.
just as Luke keeps reaching out and offers, are you going to follow? Come with me. Are you going to follow me? Eventually Vader has to make that choice and lay down the life that he lived so that he truly could live.
Yes.
So.
Yep. 100%. One of my favorite hymns is called "His Robes for Mine."
Okay.
I don't know if you know that one. It's the lyrics to it are beautiful. It talks about his robes for mine, or a wonderful exchange. Clothed in my sin, Christ suffered neath God's rage. Dressed in his righteousness, I stand. Or dressed in his righteousness. I got to look this up because the lyrics are, I haven't heard it in a minute. Let's see. His robes for mine are wonderful exchange. Clothed in my sin, Christ suffered neath God's rage. Draped in his righteousness, I'm justified. In Christ I live, for in my place he died. His robes for mine are wonderful exchange. Clothed in my sin, Christ suffered neath God's rage. Sorry, that's the first verse again. As I repeat it. Okay. What cause have I for dread? God's daunting law, Christ mastered in my stead. Faultless I stand, with righteous works not mine, save by my Lord's vicarious death and life. His robes for mine, God's justice is appeased. Jesus is crushed, and thus the Father's pleased. Christ drank God's wrath on sin, then cried, "'Tis done. Sin's wage is paid, propitiation won." And then the last verse, I love this. His robes for mine, such anguish none can know. Christ, God's beloved, condemned as though his foe. He as though I, accursed and left alone. I as though he, embraced and welcomed home.
Oh man, that is
the lyrics are just so good.
That is really rich. Israel, so I'm gonna have to look that up.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah, I love that last verse. Like, he as though I, accursed and left alone. I as though he, embraced and welcomed home. Like, so good.
That is,
yeah. So with your faith, like, how do you weave that into kind of what you do now? Like, with your voices and the different things, like, how does it affect what you do now?
I have on my YouTube, I've done a couple like a very small series of like lessons from the Force,
Yeah.
and one of them was something like, oh goodness, it's been a couple minutes since I did those. Like nothing happens by accident, I think was one of those. Speaking of, it might have been speaking of God's sovereignty. I really don't remember what I said. Um, uh, there was a couple. There was one or two other ones. Like I think there was. I don't know if I ever did this. Weapon is your life, talking about the scriptures.
Yeah.
Actually, I did. There was a vacation Bible school that happened a few years ago, and they were doing kind of a Star Wars theme for that one. And so I dressed up in my, the my mother made this suit, so kind of a Luke Skywalker outfit, and I had my lightsaber on, and I kind of talked about how whatever the scripture passage was, and then kind of related it, said, how that related to, Star Wars or whatever, and so I kind of, there's a connection that you can make that way.
Yeah.
Um,
This
so,
weapon is your life. Yeah.
yeah. But of course, the important thing to do is that you always have to use scripture to interpret life and to shine a light on culture, rather than using culture to try to understand God.
Right.
So that's always a thing that we have to be mindful of, right?
Sure.
I even remember I had a little Word document that I started a long time ago that I called my holocron. And I had pull quotes from different Star Wars things, whether it was from the movies or the games or whatever novels I was reading through. I never made it. I think I only got like halfway through the Yuuzhan Vong before my book money ran out.
No.
I was donating plasma at the time, and you could do that like twice a week and get $50 for it. And so that paid for my food, for my gas, and then after a few weeks for something else. And then I ran out of money after that school year. But so like little poll quotes that I would have, and I would have that in my list to say, yeah, I can see there's a spiritual truth that this reflects to. So, and like one of them, Corin Horn, I think an I Jedi, which is probably one of my favorite EU ones, because it's like, because I love the Jedi Academy trilogy anyway, and so it kind of does that, and then that story too. Maybe it's not that I mold the Force into what works for me, but that I let myself be molded into that which works with the Force. It was something like that, because he was struggling to try to. It was almost like Jedi Outcast, where Kyle Katarn comes and he has to like relearn his Force powers because he has a mission. He has to save his woman, right? Well, he didn't know that. He just wanted to avenge his woman. But Corin Horn, he has to do the same thing. His wife, who was a rebel operative, gets captured, and so he goes to Luke saying, can I pursue my Force talents so I can try to rescue my wife? And so he has to try to wrestle with these things, because he's trying to arm wrestle the Force to do that sort of thing, which is really a dark side way to do it, is when you're trying to take control of that which he's trying to force it and take control. And that's part of the essence of the dark side, is when you're trying to subjugate and force things to be your way, which is selfishness. Selfishness is the essence of the dark side. And so, but instead, surrender. A true Jedi surrenders to the Force, just in the way that a Christian surrenders to the will of God, rather than, because really the third commandment, do not take the Lord's name in vain, it's really, don't bring my name where it doesn't belong.
Right.
Don't use God to justify your
sinful desires or sinful.
Your sinful desires, your passions, your errant, sort of things, And so that way, Corin Horn had to learn that lesson to kind of more surrender to the Force a little bit, rather than to strong arm it, because he would always struggle that way.
That's so cool. I love it. So this talk brings me to, obviously this channel is mainly Star Wars, but there's two other loves that I have, and that's Batman. I'm a huge Batman nut, and Lord of the Rings. I'm also a massive Lord of the Rings nut. And before we got started, I noticed you quote some Lord of the Rings. You want to talk about some really cool imagery and analogy in the movie for the Christian life. I mean, it's Lord of the Rings. What's your favorite Lord of the Rings movie?
I think I really like The Fellowship. The Fellowship is probably my favorite, just because I think I liked the world building that it was doing. Not that I really had the wherewithal to express it that way at the time, but I just loved it. I loved seeing the hobbits, the Shire. I loved Dwarrow when you just see the endless columns. That was just a cool thing. And then just with the choir, Howard Shore, of course, being the composer of that, he was a different beast to what John Williams was. You could almost, I mean, it's a different world. It wasn't like other worlds out there, so it was a lot more human feeling.
Yes.
It was something like that, more rooted, but just in the way that he would just use a simple root position chord and do a melody on top of that for the Shire. It feels so elementary, and yet it feels so right, so masterfully done. And so that was fun. But that was probably my favorite one, was Fellowship. And, my mom would do New Year's Eve extended edition marathon, while she's doing her quilting or her quilt project or whatever she's doing. And she would have a first and second breakfast. She would plan a meal, plan all the meals and have the first and second breakfast, 11Z's, afternoon luncheon, and all that sort of stuff.
Awesome.
So, but I mean, she kind of did that for her. I wasn't around to really enjoy that sort of thing, but that was a lot of, I can imagine that would be a lot of fun, although I probably get a headache from eye strain for that. But, oh yeah, we watched the appendices. I probably watched the appendices almost more than the movies themselves. I don't know. But that was definitely one of the films on rotation at home when I was growing up. And then Batman actually was like my first superhero genre that I really liked. Because, and I don't even know why exactly. The Batman, the movie, Adam West, and I almost said Burt Reynolds. That's not right. Burt Ward. We had like the TV where it's like the big four, the Penguin, Riddler, Catwoman, and Joker, capture the leaders of the free world and dehydrate them into these test vials of powder of all these different colors.
Yeah.
And like for some reason they're out in the sea. I don't remember what it was, in the Batcopter, and the shark comes up and he's like got a firm hold of Batman's leg and he's like, "Get me the bat shark repellent." And of course they have a back shark repellent tank inside of the Batcopter, right? Or the one thing where, for whatever reason the Batmobile crashes for some reason, or just camera shake, and the Batmobile's crash, and it's like, "Happily, we're in tip-top condition. It'll be faster if we run. Let's go." And so they start running, and they're like running through the streets, right? And of course, I'm like 5-6 years old, so most of the stuff's like going over my head. Bruce Wayne is making out with Selena Kyle while Robin is watching, over my head, not really having any idea really what's going on. And what was fun is that on the tape that we recorded it on, there was a damaged piece of the tape where the video went out, but the audio was still there. And so when Bruce Wayne is there at their hideout, and it's like da dum ba da 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 dum ba ba, it's like the fight music or whatever, and you hear all these things, boom, pow, the brass hits, chairs smashing. I have no idea what's going on because the video is all garbled, but I'm just hearing all this stuff. And I was like, wow, they're fighting so hard that it's breaking the movie. And that's what happened in my head. And the video didn't resume until he gets out of the window and he like jumps out onto, into the bay or wherever he was.
Yeah.
So that scene was always busted up on the tape. And, so that was that. And so we had a lot of Batman action figures growing up because I wanted it. But being that I had a bigger brother who was 5 years older than I am, I never felt right to be Batman. So I was always Robin. And so I asked Mom to make me a Robin costume. And so she made me a little yellow cape and a red shirt and she sewed on the green sleeves, and she made an art patch. And we had like green sweatpants that we cut off to make the green shorts. And I wore glasses, so that was my mask. And so Robin was my first cosplay.
Wow, that's cool. I love that.
That was a thing in 1992. Robin was my cosplay.
I love that. I grew up on the '90s animation Batman with Kevin Conroy as the voice actor. I own that on Blu-ray. My kids love it. Like such a good animation. And then obviously, you end up getting the Batman Begins and Batman the Dark Knight and stuff. So I want to talk about obviously we've talked about John Williams music. But like Howard Shore, man, he's done, Lord of the Rings. He's done Pirates of the Caribbean. He's done, pretty sure, wasn't he Pirates of the Caribbean?
There's another name that's fighting that, but I can't think of what it is. Zimmer? Was it Hans Zimmer?
You might be Hans Zimmer. You're right. I think you're right. Yep.
Okay. And that's a banger track anyway. We had that like practically memorized in band. Right, the high school band arrangement of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah, the three different Howard Shore, Hans Zimmer, and John Williams. Man, talk about names at the top of the list. I don't think you can get any better than that, really.
Yeah,
I will say the
masters of the time.
Oh, 100%. I think the one soundtrack that I really did enjoy recently was Michael. It was for the new Batman movie with Robert Pattinson. The soundtrack for it was really good. Let me see here.
I never got around to that one. Usually, in my stage of life, the only time I can actually ever go out to see a movie is like usually the late 3D movie. Is the only one I can do. That's what I ended up doing for Mando and Grogu. So it was like 10:45. Of course, it was like 11:15 by the time it actually started.
Right.
Ads and stuff, but I don't really get out to watch movies hardly anymore.
Michael Giacchino is the name.
Oh yeah. Didn't he do Rogue One?
I believe so.
Okay.
Yeah. He did the score for the Batman Part 1, and it was really good, really well done. I was just like, man, I really enjoy this music. Really well done. Do you have? Looks like you're married, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any kids?
Yes. I try to keep personal details kind of to a minimum.
That's fine. Nope.
Although
no, you're good.
I do have an Amazon, so I've mentioned that I have kids there. I started doing Amazon affiliate storefront. So.
Oh, sweet. Heck yeah. Yeah. I wasn't trying to go too far deep. I was just going to ask, like, have you been trying to pass on the love of like Lord of the Rings and like Star Wars and stuff to them? You've been showing them anything yet? I don't know how old they are or anything, but just passing out anything.
I have an order that I do for it's my machete order. Okay. So they have seen 4 and 1 and 2. And we're working through Clone Wars. We're in season 5 of Clone Wars. Although there are episodes that, actually I skipped the Mortis trilogy. I skipped that because they don't know. They haven't seen 5, so they don't know. And happily in our circle of friends and family that we deal with, and we homeschool, so they don't have really anyone to spoil it for them. There's only one kid who knows. And I told him, you better not say anything.
Yeah.
And so we're going through Clone Wars right now. We're in like halfway through season 5, just about to get through the one where R2 and the other droids they were trying to do this encryption module, and they crash land on this planet and they get lost in the void. And there's like one more episode of that we have to do. So usually on Saturdays we can get to do a couple episodes of Clone Wars in the morning, more often than not. So we're making our way through, and then but there's a few episodes let's see. There's a scene in season 5 when Sidious when Palpatine says, "Prepare my shuttle," and then he goes off to fight Maul and Savage. So I'm gonna have to like hit mute and say, "Close your eyes, don't look." And then there's when Fives tries to find out what's going on with the inhibitor chips. I'm gonna have to skip that too because Palpatine is too closely connected to that episode. Because I had to watch it through again to see, wait a second, what are episodes that I might have to like skip here? And so I'll do that, and I'll get through most of season 5 or season 7, and then wait to come back I think Shattered is the episode. I have to wait on that episode until we get through at least 5. Some of them are young enough that I don't know if I'm going to do 3 with them yet, but might just have to go with 5, then leave it there, and then they might have to watch it maybe when they're a little older. So, yeah, I have a way of doing it. So for newbies, I would love to start with Rogue One first, which then, it's like, well, now you got to start with Andor first. Like Andor up to Rogue One, and then I do 4, and then I go back and do 1 and 2, and then you can go through Clone Wars. But if you're leaving out the series, then just the Rogue One, 4, 1, 2, 5, because then you get the end of that, and then you go back to 3 because you didn't know yet, and then you go back to 3 and see how it happens, and then you're ready for 6 because 3 and 6 have a lot of parallels.
Okay.
And so
that was going to be one of my next questions: is how do you show, if you're just using movies, what order do you show?
That's what that would be. Now I used to watch a lot of Star Wars reactions, and then I kind of got tired of it because everybody did chronological, or no, they did it by release order. And there's one reactor that I saw who she actually started with 1 and 2, and then everyone's like, "Stop! Don't do 3." And then she went from 1 to 2, and then she did 4 and 5, and I think that it was the most emotionally satisfying reaction that I saw, because then she saw 5. It's like, how can this be? She goes back and sees 3, and she's heartbroken at this boy Anakin that she grew up loving, and then she sees 4. It's like, wait a second, what happened to the Jedi? Why are the clone troopers now stormtroopers? What's going on? And so seeing that happen, and then going from 3, and then seeing it in 6 pay off, that is the different reactions that I see, which I haven't seen a ton, but the ones that I have seen, that was the most satisfying to me, is seeing how that plays out. Because if you go 1, 2, or 4, 5, 6, everyone's like, wait, who's that at the end? Is that Luke's dad? What is that? And I mean, it's still powerful in its own way of just 4, 5, 6. If that's all there was, that is all that there was, it's still emotional and powerful. But I think that if you have that prequel setup to it, and then you finally get to Return of the Jedi, at least in the mishmash order that I have, I think emotionally it's so much more satisfying. At least to my mind, it is.
I'm gonna have to go back, even though obviously I know the movies. I want to go back.
It's not like
watch it that way.
This before,
Not at all. It doesn't sound like you've thought about it at all.
I haven't sat down to watch it straight through for a long time either. You just see clips of it here or there.
Sure.
Whatever content other people are making, or like little shorts of it. But
yeah, absolutely. Well, we're definitely over the hour that we talked about, so I appreciate you being on. I would love to have you on again. This was a lot of fun. It's been good to get to know you, talk about our faith, and then obviously Star Wars and stuff. So really appreciate you.
This is my first podcast I've ever been on. Never been on a podcast.
Hey, look at that. I'm number 1. No, I'm just kidding.
Yes.
I love it. Go ahead if you would like, and just tell people where they can find you on YouTube, all your handles, your YouTube, Instagram, all that.
My YouTube is just what you see right here, Master Luke 1986. And then my Instagram is just Master Luke 19_IG. Because I didn't want to make up a whole new thing, and somebody else already took that. And that's where I do most of my posting, is really all I just keep to that. I don't do Twitch. I think somehow out of principle, I've never gotten on Twitch, and I don't do that for whatever reason. But so that's where you find me: YouTube and Instagram.
Perfect. Well, I appreciate it very much. Appreciate you joining, and hopefully we'll see you around a lot more often.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, absolutely. Have a good one. And guys, remember, the Force will be with you.
Well, what have we here? Now, this podcast is something that belongs in the clouds.